So you've created something that's turned out to be quite important in a space that I write about and cover, which is civic hacking, which is to say people trying to collect together data that enables city services to work a little bit better or to become more open. Can you talk a little bit about where the idea for ScraperWiki came from and how people are using it?
Oh, it came from one of our founders who wanted to track all planning applications for new buildings in the UK, and you couldn't get the data. It was spread across loads of city government websites. So we ran a project to scrape all of those sites and pull it together into one data set. But it was really hard to maintain. So ScraperWiki is a platform to make it easier to do that kind of thing collaboratively with other people.
And what sort of things are people doing with the platform?
Oh gosh, endless things. So there was the Texas Tribune did an article recently about death row and the kinds of people on it. We've got Open Corporates, which is building an open database of all companies in the world, using it to gather identifiers for companies from lots of different countries. We've got, going back to the planning one in Australia, just last weekend, the Open Australia had a hack day where they got loads of people making scrapers for Australian planning applications.
Now, when you refer to scrapers, it's basically people creating an automated means to collect data from the open web, correct?
Right, so a scraper is when some data is unstructured, maybe in HTML on the web, and you want to turn it into something like a spreadsheet or into a database, and a scraper is a piece of code that does that. So ScraperWiki is a kind of platform for people who code and work with data, like data scientists who write in Python, or developers, public data activists doing things with data. It's a platform for them to work together collaboratively.
And in terms of the interest that ScraperWiki has received, I gather that the Night News Challenge has funded you all. So I think I saw you at MIT earlier this summer. What's happened since then?
Oh, since then we've been doing some technical things, improving the platform. We're just changing lots of back-end stuff, and now this is our first day in America since then, where we're planning a whole series of hacks and hackers hack days across the US, which we're calling Data Journalism Labs, where you can come together and get people who can program and people who do journalism, and together investigate data and find stories in it and do useful things with it. And we're also going to be building lots of things onto the platform which are useful for journalists, so things like an embargo feature, so they can work on data in private and then publish it only when they're ready.
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like you're really thinking about being a platform for doing data journalism, bottom line.
Yes, that's right, and beyond data journalism. So it was interesting talking to people here, because it's a very business day today at the conference. There's not actually that much difference between data journalism and being a data scientist inside a company. In both cases, you have a hypothesis that you then want to answer, find out whether it's true or false using data. And I think that the same tools will be useful in both cases.
Well, I read a great post by Matt Thompson, who I believe works in Project Argo for NPR, and actually talked about applying the scientific method to journalism. And now with this emergence of data science and this particular generation of information theory, there seems to be some really interesting analogs there, which you've just drawn out. What are some of the touchstones from today, if you're thinking about how these two go together, that you drew away?
Oh, I enjoyed the talk from Kathy about what a data scientist is and how they're a kind of different breed from programmers and a different breed from a business person. They're kind of a communication intersection between the data and the business. So they have to understand statistics, they have to be skilled at writing scripts and making queries, but they also have to understand how to communicate with the rest of the business and what the needs of the business are. And that's actually the same intersection as what a journalist does well in the rest of society, communicating to the general public, in the case of a consumer journalist, communicating to the general public what they've learned by talking to experts.
Now, just to make sure for our internet audience here, for people who would like to know more about ScraperWiki, it's ScraperWiki.com, is that correct?
ScraperWiki.com, yeah.
And are there any particular pointers that people should know in terms of getting started or projects that they can contribute to?
Oh, there are some tutorials on there to help you get started if you want to learn to program, or if you can program already. If you're not a programmer, there's a data request service, so you can just ask for data sets, and then we'll find some data developers to get them for you or to do the analysis or visualizations that you need.
Cool. Well, Francis, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to seeing you around the conference. Take care.